Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's September 28th. I don't know where May came from, but it's September 28th, and this will be our chart lesson for the day. You can see here on our daily chart, we trended much higher. We actually had a big sell-off, and then took a chunk of it back, but we sold off from these highs up here, so it ends up being closing much higher for the day. So uh, the sell-off, if you look at the chart, was coming back and filling the gap. I've talked about that gap quite often. It's from the difference between the 8:30 a.m. open and the close from 4 o'clock the previous day. So you should have those notated on your chart, because prices will often go up and fill those gaps if they're above, or go down and fill those gaps if they're below. But you can see a positive day here. We closed much higher, even though we didn't close anywhere near the highs. We closed much higher today than the previous day. So let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart, take a look at it, and we'll work through the trades, and we'll wrap our week up. This is Thursday, no chart lessons on Friday, so this will wrap it up for the week. But let's flip over there and take a look at it. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart. You can see we had this big move up. Looked like we were going to go into a spiking channel, but quickly got a break, couple of swings to a new high, and then the bottom fell out. But notice where prices were at 8:30 when we opened, way up here, and here's where we closed yesterday. Now again, this gray part is the overnight session, and just assume if you took that, actually this gray part on this side of the line is just after 2:30 in the afternoon. So really the gray part is from this line, or the overnight session is from this line to 8:30 a.m. So just assume that portion is not there, and then you would see we closed here and opened here at 8:30. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's with the 24-hour charts today, people aren't familiar with the way it used to be, where the market closed at 3:15 every day and didn't open back up till 8:30 the next morning. And but the market still react to those times. I guess the pit still, a lot of them still open at 8:30 if they're still trading. I know they've talked about closing a lot of the pits, and maybe they have closed a lot of them, but you still have this 8:30 a.m. you still have this gap effect. And so you see where prices came back to and filled that gap. They actually went a little bit lower and tested the overnight low, and actually went lower and then reversed and took about half of it, probably a little more than half of it back. So we end up closing up, but not quite on the high. So hope that's clear. But we did have a couple of news items. We had 7:30, the 8:31 or 8:20, I guess, is the Fed chair. It's a speaker. You should be aware of those, but you don't really have to be flat for those. But just be aware in case something is said or done. The problem with those is there's no news announcement at 8:20. You just gonna have a speaker that's supposed to speak, one of the Fed speakers, and a lot of times when they're speaking in these luncheons and speaking to Congress or speaking just wherever you have these speakers that go all around speaking about the economy and all that, but sometimes they might say something that spooks or excites traders, and you might get a big rally or a big sell-off from it. So you need to be aware of it. But just there's no way to know. Let's just say it's going to be a noon speaker for a luncheon in New York to financial people or whatever he's speaking at, and he's talking. It may be an hour before when he gets ready to go, he says, "Hey, yeah, we just raised interest rates a half a point, and we plan on doing another half a point at the next meeting." Or he might say, "Hey, we're really worried that we might have dropped the rates too soon, and we may take that right back in the next meeting." Something to that effect. I mean, I'm just I'm not saying that's what he's going to say. I'm just making stuff up on the fly here that he might say that could spook the market or excite the market and cause it to move. So you need to know about those guys, but you can't really prepare because you don't know when they're going to say it or if they're going to say anything at all that'll affect the market. So just be aware of that. But this GDP and unemployment, you got to be aware of that. Those are big items. So I did mark those out. It didn't really affect the market. Well, it could have because we were in this big rally and suddenly we sold off. So was that because of that news? I doubt it, but who knows. So let's zoom in here and we'll go through the trade. So you really just had to sit patient this morning. There really wasn't anything going on early, and you had to almost wait till 9 o'clock before you got a trade here. There just wasn't much going on. So we really flat here. We did have this failed break lower, but it was like, I mean, what time is this? This is like time is 7:15. So that's about when you need to be flat for this 7:30 news. And then I probably would have marked that green anyway and say wait on the higher one, and it's right in the news item and you can see it. You just have to kind of, there is a second entry long and a higher low, but there's not room back to the highs of the range, so I don't think I would take that. This is actually a tad higher. So I just don't see anything here, and then you don't really get a chance to short this, and the bottom falls out, and then we're just chopping sideways. Now we did get a triple test here. 1, 2, 3, and a nice bar. So I like going long there. There's plenty of room. We bounced at the midline last time, but there's still plenty of room. And that might end up being the highs, but in the end it's not. It's up here where I originally had it. But you got a triple test there. You came back and tested here, but you broke lower and made that new low. And you actually closed just outside where most of the touches and closes were. So I made this one green. If it would have closed inside, maybe not quite as much tail or stem there or feather or whatever you want to call the tails. But in this case, you're always better to wait on the higher low, and you don't get one. And you don't get any chance to short this. Then you're chopping sideways again. There is a failure here, but we're on the wrong side of the EMA, and that just looks like congestion. And you can see we end up in a range here. I did like this one simply because we pretty much got a double bottom here, so you get a first entry, second entry, and a big bearish bar. It looks a little congested, so I marked it green. Wait and see if you get a lower high, and you do. Those are 2-bar matching highs, so you could trade this one. You just need to make sure you got room to get out, because see how it bounces here. You wouldn't have got stopped out in the end, but sometimes it'll bounce across there and then run up and run the stops, and then maybe go lower or either reverse. So you got to have room to get out there. So make sure you're aware of that. So I like that short. And then of course we do drop on down. No real entries here, and the next thing you know we're reversing back towards the trend line. And we get this channel working up. No signal bar here, but you get your break and a couple of legs up to a new high, and you make a lower high. And this is actually there's a new swing low. That basically makes a double bottom there. So you can count that as a first entry, second entry. And it's also a first entry, second entry failure. So it's a continuation pattern. So I like that one. This turns out to be the best move of the day almost. You probably get a runner here. And then really this looks like 2 legs. This looks like a second entry here. So I think you can treat that as a failure as well. So I marked it as well. It's moved too far to be a lower high. But you can clearly see the 2 legs down there that fail, and it turns back down. So I like that one. We run on down. We get a close outside, move to a new low, and we actually get a couple swings to a new low. This one is tempting. That looks a little bit too congested for me, though. But we're down here where we're probably about to reverse. But I think you got to wait on a higher low with a setup like that. and you don't really get one. And notice you're moving up. You get a first entry, second entry, which gives you a close outside, then you move to a new high. So this is not a second entry, but you got your close outside and a new high on this channel, and you're way away from the EMA. This is close to being green because you could get a second leg up back to the trend line. You're not quite to the trend line, but this thing has been relatively bearish. So I think you're okay to take that trade being that far away from the EMA. And you can see that it runs on down. You get a close outside, new low, and then we're bouncing across here trying to go lower and can't. You get at least a triple test and maybe even a quadruple test, but you never get a decent setup. And then it's running higher, and you get a close outside right here. And again, you got a channel working up, close outside, move to a new high, and another big bearish bar way away from the EMA. So I like going short there. I marked it green simply because, I mean, you probably should wait on a lower high, but being that far away from the EMA, and it almost, it looks similar to, didn't we have another pattern similar to that? But anyway, you probably need to wait on a lower high there. I marked it green. I liked it in real time. Even though you get a little turn down here, it really looks like two measured legs up. And there just happen to be two legs in this first leg. And you can see that. I mean, it's basically two perfect, it's basically two perfect measured legs up. And boom. So I like that in real time. I still marked it green, but if you took that trade, I wouldn't blame you at all. Just a first entry, and then you're kind of chopping sideways, but you're back to the trend line. And this is really first entry, second entry, and you got a triple test there. It's right at the key entry point. It looks like we're really in a range now rather than trending lower, but I still like going short right there. You wouldn't have got much of a runner out of it. It does come back. Unless you gave it a little more room, you wouldn't get a runner. But it ends up dropping and making a pretty good move down. But I don't see any other way. If you got stopped out here, there's no other way to get in this. It's tempting to go long right there. Again, it's clearly a couple of legs down. It's not a second entry though. It's second. That's like a third entry. So I think you have to wait on a high or low. You get that, but we've already made it back to the EMA, and this is right into the EMA, and it could turn down again. So I don't think you want to go long there, and you really just don't get a chance to go long. This thing just takes off. It's just one of those, and of course you're getting your close outside and move to a new high here, but I don't see anything that I would like. Now, I didn't mark this because it looks a little congested, but I like it in real time. I'll at least give it green. You can see the low there, and you get a first entry, second entry, but it's also a failure. We tried to go higher 3 times. It's on the wrong side of the EMA for a failure that would lead to a reversal. But, sometimes that happens, and if you've got plenty of room back to the EMA, which you do, you can take that trade almost. So a second entry by itself, maybe it's a hard green, but with it being a failure too, where you might be getting a reversal right here where we turned down last time, that might be enough with still plenty of room back to the EMA to go ahead and take that trade. Call it take the chance and call it a red one. But anyway, then we just we get the break and new low, and then we're just chopping sideways. We do get a triple test here. It closes outside and makes a higher high. So I'm a little wary of taking that one. I think you need a lower high, which comes here. As we always talk about, there's reasons to consider these trades because sometimes they're important highs or lows. Doesn't work out that way this time. It still was an easy trade. You got an easy scalp out of it, but if you took this lower high, it was much easier than that one, and you got a little more room out of it. Probably get a little bit of a runner out of it. Again, though, this is a tight range, so I probably wouldn't even try for a runner on that. And that took us into 230. So there it is. But yeah, I like just trading it like we got it here. And big trend down with a break, and a couple of swings down, move up with a break, and then we just chop sideways into the close. But we had this big move up in the overnight. So it was a pretty good trading day. They weren't, to be such a strong trend, there weren't a lot of entries like you would like. I mean, it was a shame we didn't get any kind of entry here early. We had to wait for another. And it's getting late to enter here because you already got your break and a couple of swings to a new low. But when you get a triple test and the key entry point's holding still 3 more times, it's like a triple test of the key entry point and a triple test of the resistance. I think you got to take that trade. So, but anyway, that's how I saw it. And yeah, there's not much else we can say about today. Just mostly down until after lunch, and the volume kind of dried up down here in the late afternoon after lunch. But yeah. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it Monday. No chart lessons on Fridays, as I've talked about. I know I say that a lot, and I always try to explain that we get new people in and out of here all the time. And people, if I don't say it, people say, you know, what happened to your, where's your chart lesson? I don't see one today. So I like to just keep mentioning it, and that way people don't, everybody gets to hear it at some point. If you already heard it, just ignore it. But yeah, no chart lessons on Fridays. I used to do them 5 days a week, but it just got to be too much. I mean, literally, you know, I spend an hour to 2 hours on this every day, and you know, doing that 5 days a week, you know, that's 8 to 10 hours I probably spend on this thing, and I'm just really limited on time, and it gets to be monotonous. And so 4 days a week is about all I can take of doing a chart lesson at this point. So I stopped doing them on Fridays. And I like to leave about noon on Fridays too, so now I don't have to hang around and spend an hour to 2 hours doing this, and it just starts my weekend off on a lot smoother and on a better foot. So that's the reason I don't do them. And people will ask me, you know, can you do something else on Friday? Can you add this? And it's not that I don't want to do it, but honestly, I want to get out of here at noon on Friday. I've had enough. I mean, I've been doing this 20 plus years. Um, it gets to be monotonous. I love trading and I love everything about it, but you know, come Friday, I'm ready to be done at noontime. That's why I became a trader. I'm a workaholic, unfortunately, so work doesn't bother me and doesn't feel like work to me. Doing this chart lesson's gotten where it feels like work, but trading itself and what I do as far as the teaching, it doesn't really feel like work to me because I love it and enjoy it. So it's just the monotonous parts that, you know, that tie me down, and this video ties me down every day. I mean, I could be out of here at 3 o'clock every day and be done, but I hang around to do this video, and then by the time I get out of here, it's 5 or 6 o'clock. So that last 2 to 3 hours is dedicated to recording this video, then processing it, and then uploading it, and so it's a little bit of work. So hopefully you understand that, and it's not that I don't want to do it on Friday, it's too much for me, and I want to get out of here a little early on Fridays. And I became a trader so I could have more time. Now my kids are grown now, so I don't spend as much time with them. They don't have time for me anymore, honestly. So it's that kind of thing. But yeah, I still have a life and like to, you know, I like to fish and I like to golf, and um, you know, I tinker with I collect vehicles and tinker with them, and I got a bunch of hobbies. So, and I like to spend some time with them. And I'm a big college football fan. I live in a college football town, so I have season tickets to all the games. So this time of year, I'm into football, college football, and going to games and um, that kind of thing as well. So, I do have plenty to do, and I do like to get out of here early on Friday. So that's probably more information than you wanted, But people always want to know a little about, want to know more about me. So I try to share what I can without sharing too much. And just, used to I told a lot more about myself, but there's too many crazy people out there. 90% of the people that are out there are great, and I like interacting with them. But there's crazy people out there, and you'd be shocked at what people do. And I've had people come to my home trying to find out see what kind of lifestyle I live, see what kind of vehicle I drive. And I've told this story once before, but when some guy showed up at my door and knew my daughter's name and was yakking with my daughter when nobody was home, that was the final straw for me. I started making sure that, that I don't state my real name. I don't give it out. I don't give out my address. All that stuff you can probably dig around and find if you're smart enough, but I don't just readily hand it out. It's not because I'm trying to be secret of who I am, but there's just some crazy people out there, and I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't want, anything worse to happen. I've had people, I had the most recent things, I had some guy's wife contacting me that I ruined their life because he was trying to be a trader and lost all their money. Supposedly lost all their savings and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I had nothing to do with that. I don't give them trades to take, and I tell people, don't trade live. Get on the simulator until you prove you can do it. So, but she blamed me for it, and it was pretty bad. She was pretty rough on me and sending me emails and calling me every name in the book, and it was my fault. And so, hopefully, you understand that. There's crazy people out there, and you got to be careful on the internet. Most of you probably already know that, but anyway, that's more than you probably want to know about me. But we had a few extra minutes, so. Again, people are always asking and wanting to know more about me and my story and this and that. And so I'll try to share a little bit where I can. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.